ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀਓ। ਸੋਹੀ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਚੌਥਾ। ਹਰ ਪਹਿਲੜੀ ਲਾ ਪ੍ਰਵਿਰਤੀ ਕਰਮ ਦਿਰੜਾਇਆ ਬਲਰਾਮ ਜੀਓ। ਬਾਣੀ ਬ੍ਰਹਮਾ ਵੇਦ ਧਰਮ ਦਿਰੜ ਹੋ ਪਾਪ ਤਜਾਇਆ ਬਲਰਾਮ ਜੀਓ। ਧਰਮ ਦਿਰੜ ਹੋ ਹਰ ਨਾਮ ਧਿਆਵ ਹੋ ਸਿਮਰਤ ਨਾਮ ਦਿਰੜਾਇਆ। ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਗੁਰ ਪੂਰਾ ਆਰਾਧ ਹੋ ਸਭ ਕਿਲ ਵਿਖ ਪਾਪ ਗਵਾਇਆ। ਸਹਿਜ ਆਨੰਦ ਹੋਆ ਵਡਭਾਗੀ ਮਨ ਹਰ ਹਰ ਮੀਠਾ ਲਾਇਆ। ਜਨ ਕਹਿ ਨਾਨਕ ਲਾਭ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਆਰੰਭ ਕਾਜ ਰਚਾਇਆ। ਜਨ ਕਹਿ ਨਾਨਕ ਲਾਭ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਆਰੰਭ ਕਾਜ ਰਚਾਇਆ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਧੰਨ ਗਰੀਬ ਨਵਾਜ ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਰਾਮਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਪਾਵਨ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਬਾਣੀ। So with Patsha Ji's Kirpa, we've been going through the Bani, which we know as Lama, and with Satguru Ji Patsha Ji's Kirpa, we've been looking through the slok of Bhagat Kabir Ji, where Bhagat Kabir Ji are going through the stages that somebody goes through of Dharam. So we looked through the first stage that Bhagat Kabir Ji spoke about, and how they spoke about when somebody first comes into Dharam, into the Guru's way of life, that most people start off as a pebble. So they're quite rigid, they're quite hard from inside, still don't actually understand the game. So we looked at that first. Kabir रोड़ा हुए रहो बाट का ताज मान का अभिमान, ऐसा कोई दास होए ताहे मिले भगवान. But then Bhagat Kabir Ji said that this person still is quite rigid and still gives pain to others. Because then Bhagat Kabir Ji says that Kabir roda hua ta kya paya panthi ko dukh de. Then Bhagat Kabir Ji saying that, and so what if you become like a pebble? Even though Bhagat Kabir Ji said that a pebble has so many qualities in it. So we've looked at that already for the last couple of weeks. of what it means to be like a pebble. But then Bhagat Kabir ji go on to say, and they say the next stage of earning dharam is working your way up those stairs. Then Bhagat Kabir ji say, Aisa tera das hai, jo dharani mehke. Then Bhagat Kabir ji said that the second stage is becoming like dust. फिर भगत कबीर जी ने कहने लगा कहंदे धरनी भाव धरती खे कहंदे फिर धरती दी खे बन जाओ कहंदे जे धर्म कमाउणा आ. And then we also looked at the qualities of becoming the dust as well. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah Ji speak about this, about becoming the dust. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah Ji say, ho sabna ki renka ta aao hamare paas. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah said that if you become the dust of all, that is the pathway, maaf karna, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah is saying that leads to God. Kande ho sabna ki renka ta aao hamare paas. We looked through one of Bhagat Kabir Ji's kabits describing of what that quality is of becoming like that dust. Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah Ji also in Sukhmani Sahib, Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah say, Brahm Gyani ka dheeraj ek, jo basda ko khode ko chandan lep. Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah says, look at the quality of the earth. Jo basda means the earth. Jo basda ko khode means when somebody starts to. Jado koi kende dharti no kende jado pattan lap pave. If somebody starts digging out the soil from the ground, that earth, it doesn't care if somebody is doing that to it. Kende jo basda ko khode ko chandan lep, chandan. Even if somebody was to go and get sandalwood and lace the earth with sandalwood, it wouldn't care. Whether somebody was digging it, whether somebody was lacing it with sandalwood, the earth will remain the same. That is the quality of becoming like dust. And what it meant is when we start to become more finer. Because in the first stage, when we're like a pebble, they know that the Guru has asked them to speak sweetly. But that doesn't mean that sweet speech has started to come from inside yet. Because when challenges come their way, and then what happens? They reply in with bitterness from inside. Because they're trying yet though. That doesn't mean that just because they haven't become sweet from inside, it's wrong to use sweet words from the outside. Because no, that's where we have to start and try. Karke fe ohi apa karde ek din ohi aadat ban joogi. Even though somebody may not have felt that sweetness from inside first, but if we start practicing it with our tongue first, just like Guru Amar Das Ji Paatshah said that tan man tan, that if you start from your tongue first, if you start from your body first, tan. And these are the stages of giving yourself to Akal Purkh Waheguru Ji. So you don't feel that sweetness inside, but first of all you start from your tongue. But what happens? When you're challenged, what's inside will come out. Because Paatshah Ji say as well, Kande asal vich kande jo andar hunda jo paave bhande vich vast sa nikle kya koi kare vichara. They said whatever is in this vessel, that one day it will come out. So Paatshah Ji da ithe bachan ਕਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਭਾਵ, but then Bhagat Kabir Ji saying then that person said then they start to become more fine like that dust, and they start to become sweet from inside. But like we said, understanding sweetness, it's not so easy to do sometimes. Because like I said last week, sometimes we class sweetness being from the way somebody is speaking. Koi ਭਾਵੇਂ ਨੀਵੀਂ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਬੋਲੇ, just because somebody is speaking at a low tone, that doesn't necessarily mean that they've got sweetness inside. Because Paatshah said jin man hor mukh hor se kande kacha, because they said it could be that as well, that jin man hor, that there could be something else in their mind, and what they're trying to do is they're just trying to get something out of somebody. So just because of the way somebody's speaking from the outside doesn't necessarily mean that they've become sweet from inside. If we look at the Bani Asa Diwar, what Paatshah Ji say in there, Where does Dharam come from? Because we're talking about Dharam, the stages of Dharam. Where is Dharam born from? Who is the mother? What is the mother of Dharam? And we read every day in Japji Sahib, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji tell us who the mother of Dharam is. And they say the mother of Dharam is Taal Dharam Daya Ka Poot Santok Thap Rakhya Jin Soot Taal Dharam Daya Ka Poot. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji is saying that the mother of Dharam is compassion. Taal Dharam Daya Ka Poot. Daya Ka Poot. So the child of compassion is Dharam. So Dharam is actually born from compassion, true Dharam. So there's a Dharam that we're attempting to live in. We're trying to attempt to live in the Guru's way of life. But true Dharam comes from compassion. And compassion, Gursikh Pyareo, when that compassion sits inside, then Pachi says, Jin pat andar bahar guddad te phale sansar tin neho laga rab seti dekhne vichar. Then Pachi says, Jin pat andar bahar guddad te phale sansar. What does this mean? What does it mean to become more fine like the dust? What is the quality of becoming like that dust, more fine? Now it means even though when you are challenged, then our tongue isn't necessarily bitter, because now even your inside starts to become more soft. And then Pachi is saying, but sometimes the words, that the way they are coming from the outside, the way they are being received from the outside might not seem sweet. But Pachi says, Jin pat andar, but those that have become like silk from inside. Pat means silk. Pachi says, Jin pat andar bahar guddad. They said, but sometimes from the outside, from inside there is silk. They said from the outside when they speak, it's a whole load of rags, Guru Pacha Ji saying. Rags meaning it's rough from outside. So sometimes it's received, when you look at it, when you listen to it from outside, there is somebody speaking and you think that's a bit harsh, that's a bit rough. But Pacha says, Jin pat andar bahar guddad. They said, but they're silky from inside. And just to understand this, what does this, just to use an example how to understand this. And I use this example many times. Just like a mother protecting her child. A mother is busy in her work in the kitchen, but then all of a sudden, the mother from the corner of her eye, because most of the time the mother can be doing, it seems as if the mother is engrossed in her housework. But a mother is connected to her child. A mother, Gursikh Pyaro, seems as if she's engrossed in her work, but from inside she's got this feeling, she's got this pull. And as I'm saying this, something just came to my mind now, before I go into that example. Something that just happened now with myself, just before I came to the Gurdwara Sahib. We just drove back now, we just come from London. As we got back, we're unpacking the car and we're upstairs. I'm there, getting ready. All I can think about is trying to get to the Katha. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I didn't hear no door slam or anything. But my wife all of a sudden says, where's Bhagat? Our younger child. He's 1 year old. And I'm like, I don't know, he's probably downstairs. And she had this feeling, she ran down, he'd actually opened the front door and ran outside. But she felt it without even knowing physically that it's gone outside. It's that connection that mother has. And now, and obviously and she's shouting out his name, and he's probably thinking I'm in trouble, but where's that voice coming from? Where's that chirka? Where's that shout coming from? It seems aggressive from outside. Jin pat andar bahar guddad. From outside, guddad is actually referring to, a piece of clothing that is made out of material called coarse. It's very thick in material, and very rough and hard. And just like a mother, she feels, and from the corner of her eye, she spots a child going towards fire. Because the fire, the flames are beautiful to that child starts running towards that beautiful colors, that blue, that orange, the beautiful shapes. And the mother says, But the child's thinking, why shouldn't I touch it? And the child keeps going. And then the mother picks up the tone of her voice. The fame maa hor thora zor na ਉਹਨੂੰ ਡਾਂਟਦੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਪੁੱਤਰਾ ਉਧਰ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਹੱਥ ਨਾ ਲਾਈ ਅੱਗ ਨੂੰ. Don't touch that fire. Why? It seems ਜਦੋਂ ਹੁਣ ਕੋਈ ਬਾਹਰੋਂ, if somebody comes from outside, ਉਹ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਐਵੇਂ ਆ ਕਿ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਬੋਲਦੀ ਗੁੱਸੇ ਵਿੱਚ, it seems as if she's speaking from anger, ਪਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ ਪਿਆਰੋ, ਉਹ ਗੁੱਸੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੋਲ ਰਹੀ, she's not speaking out of anger at all. ਉਹਦਾ ਮਨ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਡਰ ਰਿਹਾ from inside. She's afraid that my child's gonna burn his hand, my child is gonna burn her hand. ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਉਹ ਡਰ ਰਿਹਾ, this bad, this fear from inside, but it's coming out of where? Taal, Dharam, Daya, Kaput, it's coming out of compassion. She's got compassion inside of her. Her inside compassion is bringing that voice out. Jin pat andar inside is silk, jin pat andar bahar guddad. But the way that sound is coming from the outside is guddad, is like rags, is very rough. But she's protecting her child. She only cares for her child, for the safety of that child. Jin pat andar bahar guddad. ਪਾਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੇ ਭਲੇ ਸੰਸਾਰ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ in the world, ਸੰਸਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਭਲੇ ਗਿਣੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ. Pale means those are the true ones, those are the good ones. Pale means the good ones. The ਪਾਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤਿੰਨ ਨੇਹੋ ਲੱਗਾ ਰੱਬ ਸੇਤੀ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ why? Because they're in love with God from inside. ਤਿੰਨ ਨੇਹੋ ਲੱਗਾ ਰੱਬ ਸੇਤੀ, ਦੇਖਣੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ, constantly they're looking, ਦੇਖਣੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ, they're contemplating, they're looking at God constantly from inside, because they're in love with God from inside. Out of compassion, that mother shouts out to her child. And Gursikh Pyaro, out of compassion, our Guru shouts out to us as well. Our Guru saying, Jai Guru Chidke ta meetha lage, Jai Bakse ta Gur Vadiyai. If the Guru is shouting at us, where is it coming from? Jai Guru Chidke ta meetha lage. It should be received sweetly. Why? Because Guru is shouting from compassion. And that's what Dharam is. Guru is shouting out and saying, Putra, oh my child, remain within this boundary, otherwise you're going to burn yourself. Tu sar jana nahi ta. You're going to feel suffering, you're going to feel that dukh if you go out of that boundary, if you touch that fire, the fire of Maya. Maya agan sab eko jehi karte khel rachai. Because Pach is saying Maya agan eko jehi. Pach is saying Maya, this illusion that Waheguruji has created, करके एक खेड भी उन्हें बनाइयां सारी, कहते माया अगन सब एको जही. They said they are alike. कहते एको जो ही है दोनों, कहते चीज़ां पाचा, कहते माया भी ता अगन भी. Maya, this illusion, this falsehood that people attach themselves to. पाचा कहते वो भी कहते अगन वारगी है, कहते it's just like fire. But we don't realize it in this world. That fire, if we touch the outside fire, we'll know हाथ उसे वेले सड़ जाता तो बंदा पिछे कर लेंदा हाथ नू. That moment on the outside when we touch that fire, we move our hand away straight away. But this Pach is saying this whole world, this Maya, and if you end up attaching yourself to falsehood, then you're actually being burnt, but oh pata nahi lagda. Oh, how will we know about that fire? That fire the Guru tells us about. That's what Dharam is. The Guru says, Tu is Dharam vich aaja. Giaan, Gur Giaan, Kat, Balaya. What does the Guru do for us? Gur Giaan, the Guru is Giaan. Giaan meaning wisdom. Gur Giaan, Kat, Balaya. Balaya means the Guru lights up the pathway for us from inside with wisdom. And the Guru shows us the way. And the Guru, then from inside we start to see, if I touch this now, if I go there now, ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਆ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੁਣ ਕੀਤੀ ਮੈਂ ਹੁਣ ਸੜ ਜਾਣਾ, ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਝੂਠ ਬੋਲਿਆ, I think that it's okay now, I think he might be getting me out of this worldly situation. But then we'll start to see from inside when the Guru gives us Giaan from inside. But then Paatshah ji said there's those as well, don't forget. ਪਰ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਨੇ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਬੀਰ ਮਨ ਜਾਣੇ ਸਭ ਬਾਤ ਜਾਣਤ ਹੀ ਔਗਣ ਗਰੇ ਕਾਹੇ ਕੀ ਕੁਸ਼ਲਾਤ हाथ दीप कुए परे. Bhakt Kabir ji said there's those people in the world as well. Kabir man jaane sab baat. They know everything inside their mind. Kabir man jaane jaande vi a. Kende Kabir man jaane sab baat. Kende they know everything. Kende par kende but kende jaanat hi ogn kare. Knowingly they still make that mistake. There's some people that know what the Guru is asking to do, what the Guru is asking us to do. I'm in it as well. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਬੀਰ ਮਨ ਜਾਣੇ ਸਭ ਬਾਤ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਾਣਤ ਹੀ ਔਗਣ ਕਰੇ, still making that same mistake knowingly that the Guru is protecting us. Because there's two things, ਕਰਕੇ ਦੋ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਇਕੱਠੀਆਂ ਤੁਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ. There's two things that work together. And Paatshah ji talk about these two things together often ਤਾਂ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਧਰਮ ਦੋਏ ਛੱਪ ਖਲੋਏ ਕੂੜ ਫਿਰੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਵੇ ਲਾਲੋ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਧਰਮ ਦੋਏ ਛੱਪ ਖਲੋਏ ਕੂੜ ਫਿਰੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਵੇ ਲਾਲੋ Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah Ji's Bani. They're having a conversation with Bhai Lalo Ji, a beautiful Gursikh, so humble. Guru Nanak Dev Ji sits with Bhai Lalo Ji and Guru Nanak Dev Ji say ਕਹਿੰਦੇ Bhai Lalo ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਧਰਮ ਦੋਏ ਛੱਪ ਖਲੋਏ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਦਾ ਹਾਲ ਕੀ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਵੀ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਲੁਕ ਗਈ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਧਰਮ ਵੀ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਲੁਕ ਗਿਆ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕੂੜ ਫਿਰੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਵੇ ਲਾਲੋ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕੂੜ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੂੜ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੁਰਿਆ ਫਿਰਦਾ ਹੈ What does this mean? Guru Nanak Dev Ji is using these two words together, sharam and taram. Kende sharam taram done kende what's happened to both of them? Shap they've hidden, sharam and taram they've hidden. Shap khaloe. Kood fere pradhan ve lalo, and who has become the leader is kood is falsehood. How do these two things work together? Only if we've got the first thing sharam, then the second thing will follow, which is taram. ਸ਼ਰਮ means shame. ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ ਪਿਆਰੋ ਜੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਹੋਊਗੀ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਧਰਮ ਆਊਗਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਅੰਦਰ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਸਿੰਘ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਸੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਹੋਰ ਪਹਿਨਣ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਖੁਆਰ ਜਿਤ ਪੈਂਦੇ ਤਨ ਪੀੜੀਏ ਮਨ ਮਹਿ ਚਲੇ ਵਿਕਾਰ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਸੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਹੋਰ ਪਹਿਨਣ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਖੁਆਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ if you're wearing something that is a little extra. They're talking about clothes here. We're just trying to understand sharam and taram, how these two things work together. Because we're talking about our Guru shouting out to us, trying to protect us. It all started from here, is trying to understand sometimes what is true sweet speech. Because we shouldn't be fooled by sweet speech. Because sweet speech is born from taal, taram, daya ka poot. It's born from compassion. And Guru shouts out at us in compassion. Sometimes when we're going out of that boundary, not because the Guru thinks, well, I want you to live in this little trap. No, because the Guru is thinking, you're going to get burnt, my child. And the Guru cares for us. So, Guru Sikh Pyareo, Sharm Dharam, how they both work together. I'm just going to give an example of clothing. Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying, Kende Baba hor pehnan khushi khwar. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੁਣ ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੁਝ ਪਹਿਨੋਗੇ if you wear something ਕਹਿੰਦੇ if it's only out of pleasure because that type of clothing that you are wearing ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕੀ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਜੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੂੰ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਪਾਉਂਗਾ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਤੂੰ ਪਹਿਨ ਰਿਹਾ ਆ if you're wearing it out of pleasure ਖੁਸ਼ੀ here means pleasure if you're wearing out of only pleasure what you're wearing ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਹੋਰ ਪਹਿਨਣ ਹੋਰ here means is if you're wearing something extra meaning more than the reason of why we actually need to wear clothes ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਾਰਨ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਪੱਤ ਢੱਕਣੀ ਆ one of the reasons of wearing clothes is because we're protecting our honor covering our honor and the other reason Gursikh Pyaro is just to protect ourselves we wear certain clothes we wear different clothes in the winter we wear different clothes in the summer if you're wearing it now to impress somebody else if you're wearing clothes they might not even be practical ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਤਾਂ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਹੀ ਨੇ ਟਾਈਟ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਪਾਏ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਮੱਥਾ ਟੇਕ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਤੋਂ ਉਹ ਪੂਰੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ ਪਿਆਰੋ ਮੱਥਾ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਥੱਲੇ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਜਿਸ ਗੁਰੂ ਅੱਗੇ ਆਏ ਆ ਮੱਥਾ ਟੇਕਣ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਏ ਗੁਰੂ ਕੋਲ ਆ ਪਰ ਮੱਥਾ ਥੱਲੇ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਕੋਈ ਚੀਜ਼ ਇੰਨੀ ਕੱਸ ਕੇ ਪਾਈ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਮਾਫ ਕਰਨਾ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ ਪਿਆਰੋ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਧਰਮ ਦੋਏ ਛੱਪ ਖਲੋਏ ਕੂੜ ਫੇਰੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਵੇ ਲਾਲੋ ਪਰ ਪਾਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੇਰੀ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਨਾ ਰਹੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਧਰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਪਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਧਰਮ ਆ there's a ਧਰਮ there's a way there's a particular way we should be dressed as well because dharam means way of living there's a way that we should be dressed as well modestly but sometimes Gursikh Pyaro ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਕੋਈ ਬੰਦੇ ਦੇ ਮਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਡਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਮੱਥਾ ਟੇਕਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਪਿੱਛੋਂ ਸਾਰਾ ਨੰਗਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਾ ਆ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਇਹੋ ਜੀ ਪਾਈ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਪਰ ਆਇਆ ਗੁਰੂ ਕੋਲ ਆ ਪਰ ਮੱਥਾ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਇਹ ਮਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਡਰ ਆ ਕਿ ਕਿਤੇ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਥੱਲੇ ਨੂੰ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਮੇਰੀ ਪਿੱਠ ਸਾਰੀ ਨੰਗੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਣੀ ਆ ਕਿਉਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਧਰਮ ਦੋਏ ਛੱਪ ਖਲੋਏ ਇਹ ਹੁਣ ਛੱਪ ਕੇ ਖਲੋਗੇ ਤੇ ਹਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਅਵੇ ਹੁਣ ਕਰਕੇ ਕੂੜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ falsehood has become why because now if somebody parties but if you wear clothing out of that reason ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਹੋਰ ਪਹਿਨਣ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਖਵਾਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ what's going to happen to you ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ from pleasure what comes from pleasure ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਖਵਾਰ the next thing is ਪਾਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਖਵਾਰ ਖਰਾਬ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਤੂੰ You're going to suffer. How are we going to suffer? There's many ways. If we haven't got shame, it's going to turn into suffering. So I'm not going to go into that too deeply now. Just finishing off, just so that we've got a little understanding. Because the topic is Dharam, just to understand Dharam at all angles. Kende Baba hor penan khushi khwar jit. Kende whilst you're wearing that thing, tan pidiye man mein chale vakar. Kende tera bhi tan piduga. You're going to be in difficulty as well. And what's going to happen? Your mind's going to have negative thoughts. And you're going to create negative thoughts in other people's minds as well. So if we've got sharm, if we've got shame, the pehla hi banda sochuga. Jere bande to sharm hogi, o pehla hi sochuga, main kiਵੇਂ koi cheez pehnani hai. I'm just using one example, and I'm sure then ek cheez to khol jandi hai to sare samjhuge is cheez nu. So we're just coming back to what does it mean to become more fine like the dust? Jo tarani mekhe, becoming like that dust. And becoming like that dust means then when we actually start acting out of compassion a lot more now. When we start acting out of compassion and our words start to become more sweet. But I needed to clarify what it actually means to speak sweetly, because sweet speech comes from inside. Don't judge it on how the speech comes out from the outside. When it comes out of compassion, when somebody cares for somebody. So, Pacha ji ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਧਰਮ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਦਇਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ. Dharam is born out of daya. So Gursikh ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, just to take a little example of this. Everybody knows the history behind it, but just to understand it again. ਇੱਕ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਣੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਧਰਮ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ ਆ. There's become a system of the Guru's house. That there's something that exists in each Guru house. What is that? Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji is in Sabo ki Talwandi. Maaf karna, is in Rai Poe ki Talwandi Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji's father, Pita Kalyan Das Ji, has called Guru Nanak Dev Ji over. And because Guru Nanak Dev Ji's father hasn't got much faith left in Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji to do worldly activities anymore. So they've called Bhai Balaji over as well. Kende Balya, kende tu naal challi, kende go with Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Bas tu kamatari apana, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Bhai Balaji nu bhi bulaya gaya Pita Kalyan Das Ji ne. ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ Bhai Balaji nu kende, I'm giving these 20 rupees to Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Just to understand how is Dharam born from compassion. So when somebody's got compassion inside of them, they become more fine, and when they start speaking, sweet speech comes from inside of them. Jin pat andar bahar guddad te phale sansar tinne ho laga rab seti dekhne vichar. Kende Bhai Balaji, go and get something from out of town with this 20 rupees so it can become an investment. So you can make profit on this, from this money. Go and buy something, go and get a merchandise, go and get something that you can sell at a more profit when you come back into this town. Guru Nanak Dev Ji and Bhai Balaji leave. Remember, we need to remember something very important about this Sakhi. When Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji left Talwandi, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji, which is now today known as Nankana Sahib, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji ta ture ne andar Gursikh Pair Rai Poe ki Talwandi, ona de man vich a that I'm going to invest this money now. I'm going to make a profit on this money, because they didn't, only in a car, they didn't turn Pitaji down. So when they've left their house, they are actually on their way to another town. But as they are going, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji, they spot something. And they start to look towards another direction. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji, as they spot something, what do they do? What do they see? They spot some sadhus. Dekhne vichar. Because Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji is always looking deep into everything when somebody's in love with God. They're always contemplating. They look at everything deeply. They see a group of sadhus sitting there. As Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji glimpses over, they see a group of sadhus sitting there. Something from inside of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji, the strings of compassion are pulled from Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji. They felt something that made them walk towards that direction. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji go over and sit by the jathedar of this group of sadhus, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji, go and sit with Sant Rain. And Kudrati Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji looked at them and they had this feeling inside Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Because they acted only out of compassion. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji said, how many days has it been since you've eaten? He spoke out of much contentment. Remember, he didn't have a bowl, they weren't begging. But sitting there in contentment, reciting God's name, the Kanlage looked towards Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Remember, at this time, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji's teenage years has just started. So they're only probably about 13, 14 years old. They looked towards this child, the Kanlage kende baal, kende kuch 7 din lang ge honge, kende probably about 7 days since we've eaten anything. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji's inside. Something pulling inside. This pain that is born out of compassion, what we call pity, we call tars. Guru Nanak Dev Ji de andar tars aaya. Asal vich Gursikh Pyaro dharam hi eਵੇਂ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਸੇ ਵਿੱਚ. ਤੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ 7 ਦਿਨ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਤੋਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਮੰਗਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ you've not gone and begged anyone. ਤੇ ਉਹ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਆਪ ਵੀ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ whose name we're meditating upon, they said he knows everything as well, how many days it's been. ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਨਾ ਇੱਕ ਖਿਆਲ ਆਇਆ, ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਅੰਦਰ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ what bigger investment than this can I make now, can I do? ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ I'm going to go and get you some food and some clothes. And remember, this Sant Rain, he wasn't one of those that was begging. He said to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, kende, that's a lot of money that you're talking about. 20 rupees of them days, we're talking thousands of today, thousands. ਇਹ ਕਿਤੇ ਕੋਈ 20,000 ਦੇ ਲਾਗੇ ਸ਼ਾਗੇ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਅੱਜ, we're talking thousands. He said, where did you get that money from? And Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji spoke. He said, my father gave me. My father told me to go and invest this money. He said, then you'll get into a lot of trouble. We'll be okay. Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, no. And my inside won't allow me now to leave you. Karke taul dharam deya ka poot. Because Guru Nanak Dev Ji had the mother which is compassion. Guru Nanak Dev Ji came back and fed them. Just before Guru Nanak Dev Ji was going to go, Sant Rain said, can they doing your darshan, you might be a lot younger than us. They said, you haven't only filled our bellies today, but you've actually filled our hearts as well. And there's something that is happening to us as we are doing your darshan, they said to Guru Nanak. ਉਹ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਸੰਤ ਰੈਣ ਜੀ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੂੰ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅੱਜ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੇਵਲ ਸਾਡਾ ਪੇਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਭਰਿਆ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਰ ਸਾਡਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦਿਲ ਵੀ ਭਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਆ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ there's this vibration of love coming from me. ਤਾਂ ਸੱਚ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੰਨਿਓ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, ਆਪਣਾ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਲਿਖਦਾ ਹੋਇਆ history writes when Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji, when they got up from that group of sants and they left those sadhus, ਤਾਂ ਸੰਤ ਰੈਣ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ to his ਟੋਲੀ, to his group, ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਪਿਆ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਦਿਲ ਘਟੀ ਜਾਂਦਾ. He said as Guru Nanak is walking away, he said my heart is sinking. He said I just wanted him to sit here and I wanted to do darshan for the rest of my life. He said I've done many practices in my life, never felt what I felt by doing darshan of this child. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji, they left and they came back. But just before they came back and went home, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji come out of that masti, that jal of masti, that intoxication, that love for God. For that moment, for that one moment, Guru Nanak Dev Ji turned around to Bala and said, no, I can't go back home tonight. Dad's going to kill me. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਘਰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਜਾਵਾਂ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਛੱਡਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਬਹਿ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਦੇਖੀ ਜਾਓ. Guru Nanak Dev Ji sat on the outskirts of the actual city of Talwandi. ਤਾਂ ਬਾਈ ਬਾਲਾ ਜੀ ਦੌੜ ਕੇ ਘਰ ਚਲ ਗਏ. ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਾ ਕਿ ਬਾਲਾ ਵਾਪਸ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਘਰ. They found out that Bala's back. Why isn't my Nanak back? ਬੁਲਾ ਲਿਆ ਬਾਲੇ ਨੂੰ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਾਲਿਆ कहते तेरे नाल दा साथी किधर गया? Where's your friend that you went with? And भाई बाला जी डरदे डरदे कहते मैं नहीं कुछ कीता. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. It was his choice. I tried to tell him. कहते पर मैं नहीं, मैनू बख्श दियो. कहते वो है किथे, कीता की आ? भाई बाला जी said go and ask your son. पिता कल्याण दास जी. They left the house in rage. Bebe Nanaki was visiting. She had come from Sultanpur and she was visiting her brother's house. And as Pita Kalyan Das ji left the house, as they were walking towards Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji, Mata Sulakhani Ji, the mother of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, she said to Bebe Nanaki, she said, Tiye, कहंदे अज तेरा पे है ना, अज तेरा पिता बहुत ही गुस्से नाल है घर घरों गया आ. कहंदे की पता अज की कर देवे नानक नूं. कहंदे तू भी मगर जा. She said to her daughter, she goes, you go behind your father. She said, he's in a lot of anger, I don't know what he'll do today. Pita Kalyan Das Ji, when they reached Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji बैठे ने. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji sitting down, पर अपना सीस झुका के बैठे ने. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji's got their head down. As they're sitting with their head down, Pita Kalyan Das Ji asks, कहंदे 10 नानक सच दस, कहंदे 20 रुपया किथे आ? Where's that 20 rupees? What have you bought? Show me. कहंदे दिखा मैनू. Guru Nanak Dev Ji कहंदे मैं लिया तो कुछ है जरूर, कहंदे I bought something, कहंदे but I can't show you physically. Pita Kalyan Das Ji कहंदे don't play games with me today, कहंदे I'm not in the mood. कहंदे मैंने सीधा बोल आज, कहंदे I want you to speak straight with me today. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji said, कहंदे I went and invested that 20 rupees in a group of hungry sadhus. एक पासे गुरु सिख प्यारो जैसे ਜਿਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਨਿਰਾਕਾਰ ਆਕਾਰ ਰੂਪ ਜਗ ਮੰਡਲ ਕਰਿਓ. that ਨਿਰਾਕਾਰ, the formless ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ, ਨਿਰਾਕਾਰ ਆਕਾਰ took form in the form of Guru Nanak. Nirakar Akar Roop, the form of God in Guru Nanak's body sitting there. Jag Mandal Karyo came upon this world, is sitting there with his head down, the form of Rab. Pita Kalyan Das Ji ne ekdam na Gursikh Pyareo Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha nu baah to kadi sake ta liya. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji grasped hold of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha's arm very tight, and they pulled Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji up. As they pulled up Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji, the कहने लगे कहते 10, is that what you've really done? तो गुरसिख प्यारियो, तो पिता कल्याण दास जी ने एक पासे a mere mortal, but on the other side the form of God, that mere mortal lifts his right hand up, Gursikh Pyareo, and that right hand reaches the cheek of Guru Nanak Patsha Ji. भगा के जो थप्पड़ मारे ना एक गुरु नानक पातशाह जी दे, गुरु नानक देव जी पातशाह दा चेहरा थल्ले कर लिया. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji puts their head down. All the tak, by that time Bebe Nanaki Ji reaches that point. Udo tak Bebe Nanaki Ji bhi pahunch gaye. Bebe Nanaki Ji didn't witness the thappar, didn't witness the slap. Par Bebe Nanaki Ji dekhe that Guru Nanak Dev Ji, that her father is standing in front of her brother and he's shouting in rage. And when Bebe Nanaki thought, she thought in her heart, he hasn't hit my brother yet. Let me go and stop him. Bebe Nanaki na Gursikh Pyareo, ਉਸ ਸਮੇਂ she ran over to her brother, to Guru Nanak. She held onto the legs of her father and was pulling him back and said, don't say anything to him. She came away from her father and she went up to her brother. She held him from his shoulders and looked towards his face. पर जदों बेबे नानकी ने जदों चेहरा देखे ना गुरु नानक देव जी दा पातशाह दा, जदों देखे ना कि मेरे निरंकारी भरा दे चेहरे उपर पिता जी दियां उंगलां छपियां पईयां ने, when she saw the marks of her father's fingers on the face of Guru Nanak, ते गुरसिख प्यारे उस समय ते बेबे नानकी गाश पा के डिग पई. बेबे नानकी जी खुद couldn't take and couldn't tolerate what she just saw. She saw the fingerprints of Guru Nanak Patshahi Ji's father and her father on the face of her brother. She couldn't bear to see what she just saw, and she fainted and she fell to the floor. Guru Nanak Patshahi Ji took all of this. Why? Because Guru Nanak Dev Ji Patshahi Ji invested today in two amazing things that Guru Nanak Dev Ji Patshahi Ji gave to us. In the house of Guru Nanak now, wherever we go, there's two things that we'll always get, and that is Deg, Jag mein, Do Chale. ਇਹ ਦੋ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ. That is Deg, that is food, and that is Teg, and that is the sword. Sword meaning is standing beside someone and telling them that you are there for them. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Patshahi Ji ne, out of compassion, how far will somebody go in compassion? ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪ ਰੱਬ ਰੂਪ ਹੋਵੇ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਥੱਪੜ ਵੀ ਖਾਣੇ ਪੈਣ, ਪਰ ਉਹ ਅੱਜ ਆਪਣਾ ਧਰਮ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੰਗਰ ਛਕਾਉਣਾ. But today it's become our dharam to feed everyone langar. And just in Harmandir Sahib, there's about 80,000 people that eat every day. And what did Guru Nanak Dev Ji? They knew that slap would be worth it, because what it's going to give people in the future. Tol dharam daya ka poot. Asal vich dharam hai na jada, ਇਹ ਦਇਆ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ. ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਦਇਆ ਸੀ. Out of the compassion of Guru Nanak, they fed those sadhus. But look how far compassion goes. Today, over 500 years later, that millions of people are being fed still today out of that 20 rupees. That's the interest we're eating. That's never going to finish until this earth remains. That's the type of investments we need to do. But they can only come from compassion. Bhakt Kabir Ji is saying that the second stage of dharam is to become that dust and soft from inside. Kande jo dharani main khe. But then Bhakt Kabir Ji ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਬੀਰ ਖੇ ਹੋਈ ਤੋ ਕਿਆ ਪਿਆ ਜੋ ਉੱਡ ਲਾਗੇ ਅੰਗ. Just looking into these sloks, Bhakt Kabir Ji saying, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੂੰ ਖੇ ਤਾਂ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਆ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ now you're coming very far. You're getting now on this path and you're getting somewhere now. Why? Because ho sabna ki renaka ta aao hamare paas. Even Guru Nanak Dev Ji Patshahi Ji saying that even Waheguru Ji will open his doors and say, when you become the dust, then you'll start walking towards this door. But then Bhakt Kabir Ji say, kende, okay, now you've become the K, kende, but it doesn't stop here. They said, because even this, they said, even when we look at this example, it's got a negative quality to it as well. Kende kabir khe hui to kya pya jo od lage ang. Bhakt Kabir Ji kende je tu hun khe ta ban gaya, you become like that dust, you're becoming more soft from inside. Teri hun jehdi sochni bareek bhi ho gaya, you're understanding things a lot better now. Kende but still, kende the dust isn't perfect. Even the dust still has something against it. Kende khe hui to kya pya. Kende what if you become the dust? Kende jo ud lage ang. Kende what happens? Kende you become the pathway for people. Because remember, we're talking about a path here. When we're earning dharam, we become the path for people to walk upon us, on top of us. We're showing other people the way as well. But Bhakt Kabir Ji said, kende jo ud. Kende when that dust starts to fly into the air, kende jo ud lage ang, what happens? Each piece of that dust goes into each part of people's bodies. Jo ud lage ang, kende dusre ne anga de vich jaake lagdi oh jehdi khe a. That mitti, that dust goes and flies into other people's parts of their body. It goes into people's eyes. They're not able to see the path clearly then. Fe kende tusi dukh de ditta. Hun eda ki matlab hai? Bhakt Kabir Ji says, yes, you're getting somewhere now, kende, but it's still, they still got a fault. Still not quite perfect here. Kende jo ud lage ang. What does that mean now? Kende mitti asal vich uddi kadon. When does that dust rise from the floor and start to fly and go into people's eyes? When the wind comes. When the wind comes, that dust starts to fly, then it goes into people's eyes. What is that wind for us? Because now we might be doing well. We even start doing things out of compassion. We even start speaking to people sweetly. Now we're understanding things a lot more. But there's something that's very difficult to do. Bhakt Kabir ji saying, but at this stage, there's still people, many people that waver when what happens? Everything's going smoothly. Everything's going well. But all of a sudden the wind comes. What's the wind? A challenge comes in our life. A suffering comes. We were doing well, we were speaking well. Why? Because nothing had gone wrong in our life. But all of a sudden, someone that we love dearly is taken away from our life. And then all of a sudden, what's happened to us? Banda dol gaya. Kehinde jo ud lage ang, and what happens then? Kehinde that person, they're not able to see clearly anymore. So when you think about that dust going everywhere, it means that person's mind from being settled, it scatters and it's gone everywhere now. Why? Because something has happened in their life, dukh aa gaya. Ekdam banda hil gaya. And that person's mind is scattered now. Starts to question, aa ki ho gaya? I was doing well. I was speaking so nicely to people. I was acting out of compassion. I was feeding so many people. I was helping so many people. Aaki ho gaya mere naal? What's just happened? Why is this suffering come to me now? That wind comes and the person's mind just scatters and can't handle what's happening to them. Kehinde jo ud lage ang. So Bhakt Kabir ji kehinde there's a fault there as well. So Bhakt Kabir ji says now we need to go even further than that. We need to rise above that as well. Kehinde har jan aisa chahiye Jo pani sarbang. Bhakt Kabir ji kehinde now what you need to become. Kehinde harjan aisa chahiye. Kehinde instead, kehinde the servant of God needs to be harjan aisa, like this. Aisa chahiye jo pani sarbang. Kehinde you need to now become like water. Because what does water do? This says sarbang. And sarbang means, sarb comes from the word all. Sarbang, it gives comfort to all people. It takes away people's thirst. It's got so many qualities. It cleanses people. People bathe with water. It cleanses people. Takes away people's thirst. Gursikh pyareo, kehinde hun tusi pani wango ban jo. Sarbang, what else does sarbang mean? All. It means it can go and adapt into many different shapes. You can put it into a glass, it will adapt that shape. You can put it into a big vessel, it will adapt that shape. No matter what shape you put that water into, it will go and adapt that shape. It will go and sit wherever. Maaf karna, Bhai Gurdas ji talk about the quality of the water as well. Bhai Gurdas ji kehinde dharti paira het hai. Kehinde dharti paira het hai. They said that the earth is below our feet. Meaning that look how low the earth is. Kehinde apne pairan thalle a dharti. Kehinde dharti paira het hai. Kehinde but kehinde dharti paira het hai. Kehinde but below that is what? Kehinde dharti het vasanda pani. Kehinde but below even the earth, kehinde vasanda, what's below the earth? Kehinde is water. Kehinde we think the earth is low. We think the earth's got humility. Kehinde but even more humility than the earth. Kehinde if you go deeper into the earth, you'll find water there. Kehinde dharti paira het hai. Dharti het vasanda pani. Kehinde par dharti de het kehinde pani vasda je. ਤੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਗੁਣ ਆ? ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਚੱਲੇ ਨਿਵਾਣ ਨੂੰ, ਨਿਰਮਲ ਸੀਤਲ ਸ਼ੁੱਧ ਪ੍ਰਾਣੀ. ਭਾਈ ਗੁਰਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਗੁਣ ਪਾਣੀ ਦੇ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ they telling us about the quality of water. ਭਾਈ ਗੁਰਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ look at water. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਚੱਲੇ ਨਿਵਾਣ ਨੂੰ. ਨਿਵਾਣ means ਨੀਵੇਂ ਥਾਂ, means at a lower place. No matter where you put water, that water will try and go somewhere lower. It'll always travel to a lower place. And we think that's everything. ਹੁਣ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਖਿਆਲ ਆਊਗਾ ਨਾ, ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੀਵੀਂ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ. ਨਹੀਂ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, ਅੱਗ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖੋ, ਅੱਗ ਨੀਵੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਂਦੀ. ਅੱਗ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਬਾਲ ਕੇ ਵੇਖ ਲਏ, ਪਰ ਉਹਦੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਝਰੀਟਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਉੱਤੇ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ. But if you look at fire, the fire doesn't go low. Even if you turn fire upside down, it will still come back up and it's facing and it's going up. ਉਹਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਕਾਰਨ ਹੈ. We're not going to go into that today. Why? But not water, it'll always go lower. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਦੇਖ ਲਓ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਗੁਣ ਪਾਣੀ ਦਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਨੀਵਾਂ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ it will still even go low ਕਹਿੰਦੇ even if it reaches the ground it doesn't stay at the ground level it will start soaking into the ground it will go even lower than the ground as well ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਚੱਲੇ ਨਿਵਾਣ ਨੂੰ ਨਿਰਮਲ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ look how immaculate it is it cleanses other people as well from the outside ਨਿਰਮਲ ਸ਼ੀਤਲ it's so soothing as well when somebody drinks it ਨਿਰਮਲ ਸੀਤਲ ਸ਼ੁੱਧ ਪ੍ਰਾਣੀ it makes somebody should make somebody pure ਪਾਣੀ ਦੇ ਇੰਨੇ ਗੁਣ ਨੇ ਨੀਵਾਂ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਪਾਣੀ ਭਾਈ ਗੁਰਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਕੀਤਾ but ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ if we just look at the quality before we look at the other side of it the quality of it when Bhagavad Kabir ji is saying that sarbang that it can adapt into all sorts of situations and into shapes what does that mean it means now we've now started to understand Dharam so well. There was a time when we were so rigid in when we was practicing our Dharam. Remember when we started off as a pebble? We'd just do it, we'd not understand it, we wouldn't care for how other people felt. Remember we spoke about not even being considerate to other people, but that's how we have to start. But when we become like water, people won't even realize what we're doing. We just come and adapt into the situation. Yes, they still get up Amrit Vele, and even though the rest of the house might be asleep, but they won't even let them know that they've woke up. Chup karke. They might be practicing that they don't eat at certain places outside, but they don't make other people feel bad for eating there. They just mold in so well to other people. They won't make other people feel uncomfortable because they've now learned that how to just fit in with everyone wherever they are. Somebody might be sitting next to them and eating something that we're not meant to be eating, but they'll never make them feel low. They'll never make them feel like they are lower than them. They'll just still be in that place and they'll adapt to that place. And they'll still give them comfort and not make them feel low. It's a very difficult quality to have. But what Bhagavad Kabir ji said now is, Kende Kabir pani hua tha kya piya ਸੀਰਾ ਤਾਤਾ ਹੋਏ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਚੱਲ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ because what happens now ਕਹਿੰਦੇ you've become like that water you've become so low and adaptable to people you don't make anyone feel uncomfortable around you anymore ਕਹਿੰਦੇ but what's happened ਕਹਿੰਦੇ you're still not perfect there's still a little pride in you the pride wasn't there in the beginning of doing what you're doing because remember sometimes when we're doing what we're doing we're not making somebody else feel bad the pride isn't there in the beginning but as we keep doing it sometimes what happens after a while we acknowledge what we're doing and we actually think look how well I'm doing I don't even make them feel uncomfortable around me and I'm able to practice what I'm practicing and I'm able to be here so what's just happened now that pride has just come inside so now Kabir ji is saying once that pride comes remember what will happen from hankar from ego what will happen when you think man because whole I means me so when I comes when that whole comes me and you're thinking look what I'm doing look how good I am compared to look at that falana sikh they make other people feel so bad and then Kabir ji is saying kende now kende chal theek hai kende you was doing well it's very difficult to have that quality but once you have that pride once that pride comes that's it that's when you fall ਉੱਥੋਂ ਹੀ ਬੰਦਾ ਫਿਰ ਡਿੱਗ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਆ ਫਿਰ ਭਗਤ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਬੀਰ ਪਾਣੀ ਹੁਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਿਆ ਪਿਆ ਸੀਰਾ ਤਾਤਾ ਹੋਏ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸੀਰਾ ਤਾਤਾ ਸੀਰਾ means something when you ਸੀਰਾ means cold Kabir ji is saying now look at the D quality look at the negative quality of the water as when it's cold temperature if you look at a lake it's cold temperature that lake will actually become ice it won't remain the same it will take on the temperature it will take on that surrounding it will be affected by the environment it will become ice it will become all hard and rigid Sira tata now if the sun's out it's 30 degrees outside you go and now touch that water it's become warm it's become hot as well it's affected by the temperature and the environment but Kabir ji is saying soon as that pride comes inside of you what will happen you'll start getting affected by that environment that you're in because there's one stage somebody can be anywhere no matter how bad of that place they are in Kabir ji is saying Kabir Bhagavad Kabir ji ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸੰਤ ਨਾ ਛਾਡੇ ਸੰਤੇ ਜੇ ਕੋਟ ਕੇ ਮਿਲੇ ਅਸੰਤ ਮਲਿਆਗਰ ਭੁਯੰਗਮ ਬੇਡਿਓ ਤਾਂ ਸੀਤਲਤਾ ਨਾ ਤਜੰਤ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ there's that stage when somebody can be anywhere. They've got a million people that are walking the opposite direction to them. They can be around those people that are completely the opposite thought of them, but they won't let go of what they are. But then there's one stage, once that pride comes in their mind, they'll start getting affected by that environment. And notice this as well in your lives, or sometimes in other people, that will start happening to them. They'll say, no, I'm fine. Guru Nanak Sikhi doesn't mean to leave all this type of environment, not to hang around about that certain person, and they'll say it doesn't affect me. As soon as they start saying that, again, there's still something that can happen to that water with the environment. It can take on the temperature of that environment. And what happens? Koi tatta hone la panda hai. And they start becoming like where they are, where they have adapted to originally. They've fitted in very nicely, but they've gotten so comfortable with that place, they're forgetting about satsangat. And they're saying, no, I'm okay where I am. But then they start getting affected. ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅੰਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੋਰ ਹੁਣ ਕੁਝ ਰਹਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਗਿਆ ਕਿਸ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਹਿਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਰ ਜਨ ਐਸਾ ਚਾਹੀਏ ਜੈਸਾ ਹਰ ਹੀ ਹੋਏ. Kabir ji said, I've run out of examples. They said, if you want to be the servant of God, if you want to get to God, you have to be just like God. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜੇ ਤੂੰ ਹੁਣ ਪਹੁੰਚਣਾ ਨਾ ਉਸ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਤੱਕ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਰਗਾ ਹੀ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਬਣਨਾ ਪਊਗਾ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ but those are the stages you've got to come through. From the pebble, from the dust to the water. And eventually, remember, every example that we use in this world to compare God to, it's only every example in this world is one-sided. Some people say, well, Guru Granth Sahib Ji's used this example for God, but then what about this side? Everything, Kabir's proved this here, that no example is perfect, but we can always take something from the example. That doesn't mean we don't use examples. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਝ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਦਾਹਰਨਾਂ ਵਰਤਦੇ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਕਮੀ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ. ਅੰਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹਰ ਜਨ ਐਸਾ ਚਾਹੀਏ ਜੈਸਾ ਹਰ ਹੀ ਹੋਏ. ਸੋ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, ਇਤਨੀਆਂ ਕੁ ਬੇਨਤੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ. We've just gone through the whole concept of Dharam, the stages of Dharam. Dharam is born from compassion, true Dharam. But even though we haven't got compassion in the beginning, that doesn't mean we don't live within a system and do what our Guru says. Because some people might think of this as a loophole and think, well, I don't really feel what I'm doing. I don't really feel Amrit Villa at the moment. I'm not really feeling to give up alcohol at the moment. I'm not really feeling to do Bhat at the moment because it's not coming from inside, so I'm going to just give it a miss because true Dharam is born from compassion. No, that's not how it works. Don't forget about the stages that we spoke about. First, Karhe Je Gur Farmaya, Sil Jog Aluni Chatiye. That Karhe Je Gur. What the Guru says, the Farman, the order of the Guru, Karhe. When we do what the Guru says, Karhe Je Gur Farmaya, Sil Jog Aluni Chatiye. It's not necessarily that it's going to be sweet in the beginning. It might be that it tastes like as tasteless as licking a stone in the beginning. But remember, we said Tan, we start from our body first. We start from the outside Giaan first. First, the Guru gives us Giaan, Kabir Jaha Giaan, Taha Dharam, and then we follow and do what the Guru says, whether we're feeling it or not. But when we keep doing it, and our inner self starts to get cleansed, and we'll go through the process of how our mind doesn't feel stable in the beginning. And sometimes when we're doing something positive, ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੀ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਬਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਜੋ ਬਹਿੰਦਾ ਬਾਣੀ ਪੜ੍ਹਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਚੰਗਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਦਾ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਮਨ ਬਹੁਤ ਭਟਕਦਾ. Sometimes when somebody starts in the beginning to do something positive, whether it be reading Gurbani, whether it be getting up Amrit Vela and trying to focus, whether it be trying to go out there and doing a good deed, our mind sometimes even starts to waver more than it did used to when we was doing something not so positive. And to understand that concept, we'll go through example from Bhagavad Kabirji's Kabit again next week to understand that a lot more. And so that doesn't mean we don't do what the Guru is saying just because it's not compassion yet. When we got to first do it and we start breaking down ourselves from being a stone, letting go of our ego. When the ego starts to get chiseled down from the stone to the dust, when we become the dust eventually, then the compassion will be born from inside. When we'll be doing it not from that way in, then we'll be doing it from this way out. And then a time will come as well when you'll start to know things from inside first, and then sometimes you read it in Guru Granth Sahib Ji and say, oh wow Maharaj, you already told me that from inside without even reading it. And things like that will start happening as well eventually. So keep coming and keep learning more, and inspire others to come as well and connect to our Bani to understand these concepts. So Guru Sikh Pyaro, itni ek benti pravan. Vahe Guru Ji ka Khalsa, Vahe Guru Ji ki Fateh.
Vaheguru